Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video now for the latest from the live radar, run for the latest UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. We are staying really unsettled this week with lots of heavy rain round. As you can see on the live radar at the moment, we've got one big wall of rain arriving that is going to dump a lot of precipitation in the north and west, and the focus is actually going to shift southwards later on this week, especially Thursday through to Saturday. We could see multiple batches of not only heavy showers and some longer spells of rain, but even some thunderstorms developing across southern parts of England. So do expect quite a lot of rain over the coming days. As we progress into the longer term, that sort of unsettled pattern isn't going anywhere, but we are starting to see that hot and thundery pattern re-emerging within the model output. Now that was quite a feature earlier last week, and it kind of disintegrated out of the model output later on in the week, especially through the weekend. But it's re-emerging once again with plenty of runs, including some of the operational runs this evening, showing an incredibly hot southerly wind combined with lower pressure, producing an exceptionally unstable and thundery pattern. So we'll have to see what happens with that, but around the sort of day 7 to day 10 time frame, that has re-emerged and could be of real intrigue as we head towards the middle third of the month. And of course, we'll explore that in the second half of the video. So do remember, if you enjoy videos, to like and subscribe. Now, as we start on the live radar, you can see at the moment we have got that big wall of rain heading in from the west. Pretty heavy and persistent rain for all of Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland and Western Scotland at the moment, and it is going to progress eastwards over the coming hours. It'll clear the far southeast around lunchtime on Tuesday, but it will have disintegrated away a little bit by then, broken up, turned a bit lighter and patchier as we head through Tuesday. So it is going to lose some of its strength further eastwards, but most are going to see at least a few millimetres of rain from this system. Now, we have had a much fresher wind coming in over the last day or so. Saturday was pretty muggy and warm, Sunday much fresher, and you can see once again today it is fresh as well. Temperatures still around the 20-degree mark in the east, still hanging on to that warmth. It is, of course, June. But further northwards and westwards, strong westerly flow, feeling back like it's spring or even autumn, with that strong westerly wind with heavy rain. Now, if you look at the latest UKV now, you can see that big wall of rain heading in from the west through this evening, continuing overnight tonight, but you can see it loses intensity as it progresses eastwards, especially across eastern England. A bit of line convection, perhaps a squall feature within that system that could bring some especially heavy rain for a short period of time. But eventually around Tuesday lunchtime, it does start to clear, and we see again some sunny spells heading in for the afternoon and the evening. But that doesn't last too long. As we progress into Wednesday, more showers heading in, especially through the afternoon, clouds starting to build, and overnight into Thursday, we start to see some very heavy, perhaps thundery rain heading in from the south. Now, you can see it is not a big organised wall of rain, but it's lots of bands of precipitation, some heavy showers clustering around this disturbance, potentially some heavy and thundery pulses within it. That clears through Thursday evening, leaving a pretty sunny end to the day, and again a dry Friday morning, but that doesn't last too long. Heavy showers re-emerging Friday afternoon, and then we see another spell of rain very similar to that system on Thursday, heading through southern areas again, and it looks even heavier and more thundery there as that pushes in. Some real darker reds appearing around Saturday lunchtime, so it could be some really lively thunderstorms developing in that band. I'll be interested to see if there's much mixed level K, not ridiculous amounts, but enough that could produce some pretty lively heavy showers. And you can see if we look at the upper air temperatures, it's fueled by this temperature contrast between the very cold air to our northwest and some slightly warmer air towards our southeast. It's nothing ridiculous, but that 7 or 8 degree temperature difference, that is fueling the rain and that disturbance. Now, if you look at the max temperatures, you can see as we progress into Tuesday, we are going to see temperatures up towards the 20-degree mark. Nothing ridiculous, but, poor further north and westwards for most, but still a little bit of warmth there in the east. As we progress into Wednesday, again, could just about touch 18 or 19, but most, again, poor in the low teens. Thursday, a similar story, maybe just about 17 to 20 degrees, but again, poor in quite a few spots. And then Friday, maybe 20 to 22, again, in the southeast. And then finally into Saturday, where temperatures once again are very poor, mid to low teens for many, as heavy thundery showers move in. Now, if you have a look at the longer range now, you can see as we progress during the rest of this week, strong westerly winds with a southerly shacking jet stream picking up some extra moisture, and that produces those heavy thundery showers later on this week. We're keeping that westerly flow all the way into next week, but it does become more of a southerly tilt, and this is that hot and thundery pattern re-emerging. You see this low pressure system dive southwards towards the more of the central Atlantic, and it does push up a very strong southerly wind. So you can see some very hot air heads our way, not perhaps a direct impact here from the GFS. More of a glancing blow of that heat, but it would fuel some big storms as that low pressure system sweeps all the hot and humid air away, and then we go back into that westerly flow, keeping it unsettled. But if we do go back to this point and we look at the surface conditions, you can see it is hot there as we progress into next Wednesday and Thursday, potentially low to mid 20s, maybe even upper 20s. But the reason why it's not hotter is because we would likely start to see heavy thundery showers developing there, especially through Thursday, and then you can see there is some pretty high levels of Cape developing, so some real intense storms could be possible in this sort of scenario. I know I've shown these charts quite a lot over the last week or so, and they keep kind of coming out of the model output, but they're back again. So again, we'll have to treat them as a viable option, and we'll have to wait and see if this does continue in the next few days. I hope it's not one of the patterns we saw last week where it was really strong for a couple of days and then dissipated away once again. But hopefully we see a bit more consistency from the models here. But yeah, great intrigue there as we progress into the middle third of June. If we now compare to the GEM, again, strong westerly flow as we progress through much of this week. Eventually into next week, again, we see that bit of a southerly tilt, maybe not as direct with the low pressure system not diving as far southwards, but we do drag up some warmth and heat from the southeast. It does go hot for a short period of time at day 10, but again, that temperature contrast, my gosh, look at that, 18 degree isotherm compared to the 0 degree isotherm there. You see high 20s in the southeast, low teens in the north and the west. And again, if we look at the Cape, you can see some very high levels of Cape across the near continent. Suspect some of that would be coming onshore for us in the subsequent days beyond this. If we look at the precipitation as well, you can see lots of showers starting to break out. We'd expect to see some even heavier showers in the subsequent hours as that low pressure system collides with that hot and humid air. Finally, compared to the ECMWF, it is very similar. Westerly flow over the coming days. Eventually, we see that southerly tilt, and look at this, not a southwesterly, but a direct southerly wind. And you can see it's coming straight from France, and this looks like a classic French import thunderstorm pattern. You can see at day 9 here, a very strong southerly wind, and at day 10, we are just about clearing that hotter air. So very much a transitional pattern, but nonetheless, hot, humid, and very thundery for a short period of time. Now finally, if we look at the ensembles, you can see the next kind of 5, 6, 7 days, below average, high precipitation, classic, cool, unsettled pattern. However, into early next week, look at that, big spike appearing once again, not completely overwhelming, not all runs going for it, but again, the majority are up towards that 10 to 15 degree isotherm, and some are even going higher than that. So again, we'll have to wait and see, is the operational and the control run that actually the hottest. So very interesting seeing that. The 2 meter temperatures also starting to spike mid to maybe high 20s, and if we look at the dew points as well, you can see some very high dew points up towards the mid-teens. Again, hot, humid air. If we do compare to the ECMWF, the midday run hasn't fully come out yet, so we have to look at the midnight run, and you can see it is very similar. Cool and unsettled over the next week, but progressively from around the 10th of June onwards, it starts to turn hot and thundery, some much warmer air masses coming in, and we start to see some big spikes as well. Nothing overwhelming. Again, these a lot of the storms we're looking at will be convection based, so there is a lot of uncertainty, and of course ensembles don't pick up on that too well at this time frame. So again, I would ignore the exact spikes, but it gives you a rough estimation that we are expecting precipitation, but it is that big spike in upper temperatures that's starting to re-emerge within the model output. If we look at the 2 meter temperatures, it shows a similar story. Cool and unsettled the next week, and then look at this, a big rise there around the 10th of June onwards, back towards the low to mid 20s, maybe even upper 20s or even 30 degree range if that hot air mass does emerge. Again, as we said, same as last week, it is on a bit of a knife edge, so I wouldn't be surprised if this did move out of the model output once again. But the fact that it's re-emerged shows me that there's definitely something in the atmosphere trying to force this pattern to occur, which means that there is a strong possibility that at some point we do see this starting to happen. So again, at the moment, most runs showing it from around the 10th of June onwards, so nothing to worry about for this week, but definitely something on the horizon that could give rise to some pretty significant weather with hot temperatures and maybe some heavy and thundery showers. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.